can't believe I'm making this video. Hi, my name is Max Moran, and I'm going to tell you about how I acquired my dream car, spent hundreds of hours bringing it back from the dead, just for it to blow up on the side of the highway. This is the story of me and my 1972 240Z. So, to set the scene, I had just sold my 2003 Honda Civic that was spray painted white, lowered with $600 coilovers, and had a $100 Amazon wing on the back. So, to put lightly, your boy was down bad. After selling the Civic, I really wanted a car that I would be proud to put hundreds of hours into and would drive for years to come. I looked at RX-7s, MX-5s, MR2s. I really liked those Japanese cars, but I kept coming back to the 240Zs. The S30 chassis is one of the most beautiful car designs ever. So one hot May Texas morning, I'm browsing Facebook Marketplace to find this 72 240Z for sale for $5,800. I messaged the guy and said I had $5,300 in my bank account, which was mostly true, and he agreed to it. So the next day I went down and checked it out. The car wasn't in the best shape, but it wasn't in bad shape. It had really good bones. It had a numbers matching engine, transmission, and had a pretty low VIN number, somewhere in the range of 50,000, which for these cars are really going up in value. So I called AAA, said my car had broken down and that I needed a tow. The tow truck driver showed up and was like, okay, whatever. He puts the car in the lift, and this was amazing to me because this is the first time I'd seen the car move, and it would be the first time I'd see the car move for a while too, because I had a lot of work to do before I could really get it to roll. This is the first photo I ever took with the Z, and it just shows how excited I was. I actually posted this on my story, and my friends Austin and Patrick showed up at my door like 20 minutes later because they were excited too. The first task was to evaluate the car. So we wanted to start with the interior. We immediately realized that this car had become an ecological preservation zone because for the amount of animals that were in there, it should have been. We found hundreds of snake eggs, tons of skeletons, whether it was lizards, squirrels, rats, mice, so many nests, tons of acorns. It was unbelievable how much was in this car. The carpet in the interior really I wanted to keep, but it was so molded and so ruined, I just had to get rid of it. The interior panels also cracked as soon as I touched them, which was heartbreaking because I really did want to keep it, but they just were not gonna last. The only real bad rust spots were the hatch slam, the spare tire well, and the floor pans. Besides that though, the car actually was in really good shape. There was no frame damage. Everything underneath the car was just service rust. Nothing really was that bad. The first goal was to get this car on some new tires. The tires were so flat and destroyed, it wasn't even hard getting them off. The hard part was getting them on. In hindsight, should have taken it to a shop, but I really wanted to try to do it. So me and Nathan spent a good 2 hours manhandling each tire onto there. It was fun, and I'm glad I did it, but I will never do it again. The next task was to figure out the gas situation. I know you're not supposed to start an old car with bad gas in the tank, so the first step was to drain the gas tank. So me and my friend Camille stuck our heads underneath the back to undo the drain plug for the gas pan and quickly realized there was a problem. A nice jelly mixture started to come out the gas tank. The gas had sat for so long that it had turned into sludge, essentially. You can do all sorts of things to get the sludge out. You can do rocks and solvents. You can take it to a shop and have them do it. But it really wasn't gonna matter. As soon as I dropped the gas tank, I realized there were holes all over the top of it. It was pretty much unsalvageable, so I ordered a new gas tank. I actually took out a loan from my parents for this because it was the only way I could afford to do it. It was like $900, it was expensive, but man, it was a 1-to-1 replica, literally bolted in perfect. I'm so glad I did it. Disposing of the old gas tank was quite an experience. You see, no landfills will take gasoline in a solid state. So the only place in the city of Austin that would take it was the hazmat facility. Do you know how stressful it is to go to the hazmat facility? You feel like you're gonna explode at all times. Like, I dropped that off, got out of there as soon as I possibly could. It was so stressful. Next came trying to get the car started. While I waited for the gas tank to come, I basically exploded with all the electronics. So I got new spark plug wires, new spark plugs, new distributor cap, and a new ignition coil. So I then spent a good week with Patrick and Nathan almost every day going out, playing with the wire configuration, trying to understand how to hook up the system, because the problem is the previous owner had messed with the wires a lot and had their own ignition system. There aren't that many good diagrams that explain how to do it in its stock form, so I was basically just trying to figure it out myself for so long. It was so stressful. But after watching a lot of YouTube videos and playing around with the wiring for hours, I was finally able to get it to spark. So to start a car, you need spark, fuel, air, and compression. So I had spark along with gas because I wired in a new fuel pump along with installing the new gas tank. So the only thing left to check were air and compression. Now air really is never the problem, so it was kind of left with the compression. Now I didn't believe that it could be compression. I was like, compression is never the problem. Why would it be compression? The engine blow up? This is where I was really worried that the engine was seriously messed up. So after watching some other YouTube videos of people starting their old cars for the first time, I finally realized that a way to help with compression is pouring just a little bit of oil into the cylinders from the spark plug holes. This sounded crazy to me, but after I got a compression tester, I saw that compression was under 50 in every single cylinder, which is, you need like over 100 for it to start at all. So in the middle of July, with my cousin Miguel, after spending several hours with the compression tester and the oil trying to get the engine lubricated, I gave Miguel some starter fluid, and this happened. Right? Yeah. Holy shit! Yeah, oh my god! Let's go, dude!
Nice.
Oh my god! It was one of the most relieving moments of my entire life. The fact that it started gave me so much hope. I went into work that day yelling. I was so excited. It's running! Camille, it's running! I'm so happy! Oh my god! Dude, it sounds crazy. But it was amazing. It meant that the car had the potential to move. Over the summer, I had friends come over a lot to go swimming and party, you know, whatnot. Every time we'd end up working on the car, and it was so fun because it'd be all these like super like goofy people having fun, and we're like doing cool old car stuff. That's one of the best memories of this whole process. I got a new clutch master cylinder because the other one had been rotted away. I got new clutch lines, a new clutch slave cylinder, and a new shifter kit. So on this lonely Texas night, me and Nathan bled the brakes, adjusted the clutch, went over a final check through, and for the very first time, the car moved under its own power. An amazing moment. It was so slow, but it was so exciting. Shout out to Tanner De La Cruz, by the way, for helping me wire the fuel pump. He was a big help in getting that whole system figured out. He does a lot of lawn mowing stuff, and so that would have been really hard for me to do by myself. I went for drives every day, whether it was around the block or just backing down the driveway. It was so fun that the car could move for the first time. First time I went to the gas station was a big deal. I live like 100 feet from a gas station, so I had lost my mind. It was so cool that I was able to fill it up with gas. And I kind of had a reliable car, like that could drive. The only issue was you could still see the ground when you drove. So now it was time to weld. I have never welded in my life. I have never learned anything about welding, so this was an entirely new process to me, and I was so excited. Me and Camille spent several days preparing, practicing on sheet metal. It was our first time using an angle grinder, so that was new for us too. We spent several hours cutting out the floor pans until we were finally able to test fit the new floor pans. I got from KF Vintage, by the way. They're a Colombian company. Totally recommend them. Great prices, great deals. Shipping's a little expensive, but I mean, who cares? The parts are amazing. After a few hours of practice on this Chinese $130 welder, I was ready to try it. I spent several hours tacking, getting it all ready, and then I remember the very first time that I had fully welded it all the way and sat in it, I was like, oh my god, it holds. For part of me thought that when I welded it, it just wouldn't hold, like I would sit in it and it would just fall through immediately, but it was perfect. I was able to jump up and down and there were no problems. I was so excited. And then I was able to put the seats back in the car and basically had a functioning car. I was so excited. I wasn't quite able to pass inspection yet because I didn't have headlights or brake lights or a horn or turn signals, or it was way too loud because of the muffler, but I had a car. It was so cool. It was so amazing to take this car that had been buried, literally buried in the ground to this day. Was amazing. We ended up towing the car to my college because I did not want to deal with driving. I don't think it would have made it anyway. I fixed the turn signals. I completely welded up the floor pans so there was no gaps at all. I ordered a new exhaust. This is the nicest part in the whole car. It's a Fujitsu exhaust from Japan. Minutes after I installed the exhaust, I went to the inspection place and it passed with flying colors. I had to convince the guy a little bit, but he let me pass. And I had finally a legal functioning car, a daily driver 240Z. So excited, was unbelievably happy. At this point I started making YouTube videos with the car. I'd always really wanted to, and I kind of wished I had during the summer, but I always was a little nervous to start, and eventually I just told myself, you're gonna do it, because it'll be fun. And it was so fun. My roommate Nathan really liked doing it with us too. We went on drives all the time. You smelled like gas, it was hot, there was no AC, but it was so fun every time. So I ordered a new alternator along with new rear brakes because the brakes were terrible. For the brakes, I could have rebuilt the drum brakes, but I wanted to just get rid of that whole problem completely because they don't work very well. So I got some Wilwood disc brakes, the coolest part on this car. I got a new brake booster for the car. My welding was getting a lot better, as you can see. It's a flux core welder, so it's still pretty messy, but I was getting better. I got a 1-2-3 ignition distributor, the best part on the car for sure, because it lets you control a timing curve digitally, and it's amazing. You can like be on your phone while you're parked like at a stoplight and change the curve, and basically you can tune the car while you drive. It's amazing. So I drove to Austin for winter break and quickly realized that there was some sort of problem. There was a very loud ticking sound coming from the engine. And it wasn't a ticking sound in the term of rod knock, it was more in the realm of like exhaust or head gasket leak. This is me on the drive back from Austin, and it was not a very fun drive. This did give me the excuse though to do the thing I'd been wanting to do since the beginning, which was fully strip down the engine, paint the bay, all new gaskets, all new everything. And I was so excited. This is gonna be my spring like car thing. It was gonna be so cool. So over the next month, I fully disassembled everything. I made YouTube videos. If you want to go back and watch that, you can see the whole process. Finally got down to the block and saw the blown head gasket that had caused this problem in the first place. I know you're supposed to take an engine to the shop to get it resurfaced, but I didn't really have the money to do that, and I really needed a car, and so I just cleaned it the best I could and put a brand new head gasket on there. Over the next month, I assembled the engine, painted the bay, and everything really started to come together. It started to look so wonderful. Please go watch those old videos I made because it's really cool to see the development of the engine bay as it comes along. Nathan was in charge of the carburetors. That was his job. He actually dunked them all in muriatic acid, which super cleaned them, made it so cool. And then after months of effort, fully taking down the engine and fully rebuilding it back up, it started. You can see this in the video, and it's really cool. And it was a really cool moment because all this work had finally paid off. The next week, I drove back to Austin, of course taking it easy. I really never went above 5,000 RPM because that's what you're supposed to do when you're breaking a new clutch and an engine and head gasket like that. I downshift into second, pulling up to a stoplight, and a huge cloud of white smoke appears behind me and loud pops, and I'm like, oh no, what happened? I look in the engine bay and there's oil and gas and coolant everywhere. I'm like, oh, fuck, what happened? It became pretty clear that a head gasket blew or something bad happened. I really didn't know. It wasn't bad enough to where the car wouldn't run. It just was pretty bad. So I bought a lot of oil and coolant at the local shop and just kept filling it up like every 30 minutes, you know? I fully disassembled the engine and find that the head has some damage and the pistons have some damage and that the head gasket had blown again. I don't know what caused it. So frustrated. I'd done all this work just for it to blow up again. And I know that if I put in more money and more effort, I can make this car reliable with the engine, but I just can't justify it. So it was a really hard decision, but I've decided to sell the car. I did change the head gasket though. I put new fluids in it, and the car runs and drives, just not very well. Has a few leaks. Really, the engine needs to be resurfaced if you really want it to be reliable. I really hope someone can take this car all the way. I'm really sad it can't be me. If you're interested in buying the car, just let me know in the comments. I'd love to sell it to a viewer. This has been an incredible experience, and even though I'm heartbroken that I have to sell it, I do not regret anything. It was so fun, one of the best times of my life, and I will remember this till the day I die. Thank you so much for watching. This series has been one of the most amazing things to happen to me or this channel. This car has made me a better person. It's made me better at inspecting things, working problems out, better at communicating with people, and it has just been an absolute blast to work on. thank you to everyone who helped me with the car too. Nathan, Patrick, Austin, Camille, Tanner De La Cruz, Ethan Godinez, and so many other people, Billy, everyone. I can't even name everyone because so many people contributed, and it's been an absolute pleasure working with everyone. Thank you so much for watching, everyone who has, and I hope you have an excellent fucking day.